ontological argument. Which is a good idea, but he, in my opinion, presents it in such a way that he says by saying that he disproves a need for a creator, but that isn't true.
Probably doesn't disprove it. You can't. It doesn't disprove it.
Surely it's popularising these, perhaps academic theories.
And that's a lot of my problem with it. Is that by through the popularisation, you lose.
No, I don't think you do.
The sight of it.
Because people who read that then might go on to read further books.
Yeah, the way, well, particularly the God Delusion, and a lot of my criticism of Richard Dawkins comes from his offering of the God Delusion. I actually quite like some of his other works. And some of my arguments they have been purely playing devil's advocate. But the God Delusion in particular annoys me, so that it's written as a closed document in my mind. It doesn't have a sort of an inspirational level that wants us to go out and read more of it. It almost says, this is how you should think, full stop. And that's where I get the comparison.
I don't agree with that. I don't think Dawkins would say that.
He doesn't say.
No, I don't think implying it. I think he's just simplifying these, possibly highly academic.
Yeah, but it simplifies it to the point where, and particularly if it's being read by lay people, I don't mind simplification as long as it's written from the point of, this is a simplification, this is not the answer, this is not exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, it's all one thing, that's what it means, but when I read it, for example, I got the impression that this was the answer, this was the end point.
Dawkins' answer at a certain level, people who, just read on.
Interestingly enough, doesn't Dawkins attack the dumbing down of science and oversimplification?
Inappropriately, yes.
I know he does write science, but he doesn't. I think I looked up the number of actual scientific papers Dawkins has published. His career is about 3. He doesn't write.
Oh yeah.
He writes well.
He's got a good philosophy behind him. Yeah, quite good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the self-achievement was a good one.
The difference between his bibliography is good, but what he writes are not academic papers.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not like he publishes peer-reviewed stuff.
Well,
they're books for the general public.
Now he does, but he used to have a very considerable research. Yeah, but that was a good while ago. Before he was.
But he's known for writing books. But they're not supposed to be academic tomes. They are for the general public too. So I think that's a good thing. I don't think science should be. People have enough problems these days trusting science and medicine and all these things. There's a lot of distrust, and I don't think science should be a mysterious, complicated thing that only boffins know about, only boffins think about. Right. I think it should be out there in public domain.
For example, a parallel that I like drawing against this is that sort of going through the developmental stage of say a physics lesson is that the science was taught at GCSE level, for example, still that's how an atom is and what it looks like and how it behaves. Then you learn that that's not quite true at A level, and you learn that's not quite true if you take that on further to degree. But the answers that you get at GCSE level are not complete answers, and they leave you questioning, and particularly if you've got a question in mind, to look into it in further detail, which is why you go on to say, chemistry or...
But most people don't, do they? Most people are like, I don't want to know about the complicated
knows so much about the science, that reading the God Delusion, you knew more about it. But people who don't know much science come to that, and it just gives examples of things. I know you said that you felt it was a sort of set-made answer, nothing else left. And you implied that you said you won't have to think for yourself. But I think ordinary people would. They haven't heard of these things before, they think it was thinking for themselves, counter arguments.
I think one thing, you said he comes out with set answers again. I was watching something with Dawkins on YouTube the other night, and he was being questioned. I thought, I know what he's going to say now. And you can say, and he'll say the same example, the same phrase. He is kind of, but then the questioner, the interviewer, was asking the same old questions. And it was that BBC thing, Hard Talk, they were supposed to drill into someone. And it was just the same old...
Hugh Everest did the interview.
No, it was some other guy, but it was just the same old question. Even the Paxman interview that's on there, where he's supposed to be really drilling down, it's just the same old questions. And so he comes out with the same old answers, and that's the level of public debate at the moment. That's the level of public debate at the moment.
And that's one of my big
problems.
is that
What's the truth?
what Dawkins says.
Be very careful about that.
Yeah, just watch that, Paul.
On Noah's level, he's not lying about things, whereas the religious people are lying about things because it's totally personal. Their faith is so personal that it's a personal interpretation of things.
Yeah, but so is Dawkins.
It's not personal interpretation.
It's
It's a general objective.
Absolutely. That's as much a leap of faith.
No,
if not more than that.
I wouldn't agree it's a leap of faith, but it is. But the way he writes is very personal.
Absolutely a leap of faith.
For loads of reasons. I mean,
Science isn't a leap of faith.
No, I didn't say. That's not what I said. I said
Dawkins
that
is writing about science.
That is an extrapolation of what you have. No, it's not necessarily writing about science. It's writing about his interpretation of science with regard to what's outside of science, what's beyond. Now you can come to science and you can interpret. You bring your own faith to bear on it, whether it's atheist or not.
No,
I mean, atheism
it's not
is
a
a type of
faith.
philosophy.
It's not a faith.
These are questions of philosophy,
Yeah,
and there are philosophical truths, and they exist beyond the facts you can see and hear and taste and touch.
Only in philosophers' opinion are there truths. You could have other opinions that they're not truths.
But is there truth? I mean, is there?
I said that word to get people going.
I know. I think it's brilliant. I love that. I think it's very
But I think science is more true than philosophy.
Can you probably give an example that is somewhat more, because
Well,
I have a hard time,
Yeah.
it sounds quite abstract, so if you
Well, I mean,
give
well, let's say, for example, you come to the world and you see things as they are, and you have to ask the key questions: why we're here, how did we get here, and where are we going? And those are philosophical questions for sure. But you have to extrapolate from reality to get to those realms. And what do you do with an atheist mindset? There's nothing.
And I'd say those questions are quite childish. It's a bit like why am I here? So I don't know. I've always found that you need to ask little. Will I die? What will happen? Well, I always thought I would die.
Yes, all the evidence around us animals die and decay.
If there's an answer to it, then it's a bloody important question. And if there isn't, and it is just...
Well, there hasn't been any answers since thousands of
then
years.
it's a completely relevant question. And so we don't know, so we do have to ask it.
There's been no answers.
It's obvious because there wasn't even a reason.
I don't think we're here for a reason, but I don't think I should
We're
stop asking
We're just here.
Doesn't mean
Oh, but that to me is just intellectually not satisfying. You know, I mean, you think? Well, I mean,
But you make up your own reasons why you're here. Your own meaning for life.
I'm here because my parents really wanted me to go to university.
No, nothing physically here.
then, for example, so a couple of weeks ago in the New Scientist was an article you probably have read about where they summarized a lot of the research that has been done on where humans actually come from, and how the spread of humans.
The evolution.
Well,
early humans.
So the spread of humans over the globe in the last 200,000 years, and it's quite interesting that with the use of the scientific method, we now understand quite well. So if you ask the question, where are we coming from? You can say, well, we know the patterns that people do. So it is, and I find it actually quite interesting. And I find that what I really like is that science is a tool that at least gives us a method that everybody more or less can agree on. No matter where you're from.
We can use the same
Well, but wait a minute.
methods, can't we?
Well, but I think most.
results.
So it's a sort of a social tool. I think it's easier for two people to agree on the scientific method than say to agree on the interpretation of Genesis. Even whether Genesis is true or not, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying people.
Because it's literature.
Science is at least a tool that many people can agree on, and that is why I, for example, and what I like about Dawkins is that at least he explains to the general public why that method works very well. So in his defense, but I would like to hear from you. So why do you think? So would you agree with that? Then?
oh yeah, that's a very reasonable thing to say. I mean, absolutely. Science is you observe something, you make an observation, you make it again and again and again. You rack up some statistics, and you say this is the way the world seems to be. But I mean, there are various levels of ways of there are different levels within nature that you can probe, and I don't think all levels are accessible to us. And when you reach the end, well,
when you say they're not accessible to us, does that mean like
we'll
never be able to
example,
understand it in terms of science, or that it's something we're not yet capable of?
Yeah, okay. Let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, you've got you know what a sphere looks like. Everybody knows what a sphere looks like. It's a three-dimensional object. We live in a 3D world. What does a four-dimensional sphere look like? And then
It's imaginary.
Well,
but we can't perceive it.
Imaginary.
you can't conceptualize it. There are limits.
I mean, I would agree with that. I read a book recently about the discovery of quantum physics in the atom and all that. And there's this sort of chapter in it about how the model of the atom that we have, that we talk about, is a GPC ball with all these spheres around it. And actually, it's nothing like that. You can only it's energy, and you can't envisage in your head what it looks like or how it is. You can only do it mathematically, and that kind of blew my mind a bit. God, there are things out there that we can never construct them in our heads what something, because they exist on a realm that we are not evolved into. And so then you read that physicists reckon there are other dimensions, like 11 dimensions or 12 dimensions. We can't conceptualize that. We can maybe calculate that it might be there, but we can't. And I would accept that there are limits to our science because there are limits to our perceptions. So
it just depends. I think you bring to bear your faith. Now that faith can be anything. It can be atheist or otherwise.
No, there's no atheist
Christian.
faith.
Well, I don't agree. I mean, I think you have to make a leap of faith. I mean,
no, it's a matter of trust. The absolute faith that you have in religion, you will hold on to those doctrines no matter what the evidence is. You'll change the evidence or the ways of doing things to fall in line with your doctrines. There is a trust in science which is qualified, changeable, varies over time. So you can talk about trust in humanism, atheism and science. You cannot talk about faith.
But that's just not true. I mean,
it is true. For me, it's true.
There must be absolute principles. Are there absolute scientific principles?
No, who said
are there
there was?
Are there absolute numbers in nature?
Who said?
Are there absolutes in nature?
I will answer.
I think there are.
It depends on circumstances.
No, it doesn't. There are some things that are unchanging. There are some constants that are unchanging. The speed of light in a vacuum, the Planck length.
How do you know that?
Well,
Science tells you so. Yes,
science tells you
but
so.
there are theories.
But
the speed of light varies.
You bring to bear in a vacuum.
Gravity.
I said in a vacuum.
Well, I don't talk about the material it's going through. I'm talking about the gravity.
But you can bend gravity.
But that just changes the curvature of space-time in the region of a heavy object. But that doesn't change c, which is the speed of light in a vacuum. So that's a constant in all of those equations. The Planck, there are loads of examples. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you look at science, you bring to bear on how you interpret that philosophically. So you either say that there are, for example, you either say that there is something behind all of this clockwork which we're able to quantify, observe, and use, or there is nothing. Now, if there's nothing, you have to say to yourself, well, are we just incredibly lucky, or are there an infinite spread of universes? And both, as it stands.
Why should you be lucky if the development of life is purely natural? There are plenty of amino acids in space.
But there aren't an infinite number of planets in the universe. There are a finite number of planets in the universe.
Well, yeah, I know we can't say things.
There are billions upon billions upon billions of stars.
That's a number. We know that number. But
And formation of amino acids is common in space, and that's the building blocks of life. Therefore, they could find life on Mars.
That depends on having lots of things like carbon resonances in stars, supernovae of a particular kind. There are an awful lot of events cosmologically to bring.
And they have all been happened. They've all been recorded. They've all been measured, and it happens all the time.
It doesn't take away from the fact that the
probability you can write down is very, very small.
It's not.
The probability of life coming into existence is virtually zero.
In fact, it's 1 in 10 to the 60, or 1 in 10 to the 45 to the 50.
Which is
it depends what formulas you use.
Now you bring to bear what you want to that story. You can say to yourself, that happens to be extremely lucky for us, and that's okay. And there are theories in quantum mechanics that says you have multiverse phenomena at every quantum event. Now that's okay. But I'm telling you, it's a leap of faith.
I'm telling you, it's
two different uses of the word faith.
Yes.
You're using faith differently to you.
Yes.
That's what's happening.
Faith means you don't have absolute evidence for it. Do you have evidence for it? We have evidence for how much probability there is of us being here. We have evidence for that.
I mean, a couple of things from a scientific point of view. I wouldn't say there was ever absolute evidence for anything. You should always be open-minded it could be falsified.
Right, yeah.
As Einstein said, 1 million
do
experiments.
people look for falsification?
well,
But don't
but
Of course they do in day-to-day life. Of course they do.
Yeah.
Well, there's been a
You're
recent
predicting
scandal
stuff about
about
your surroundings
made-up
all the
drugs
time.
in a biological experiment.